Hi, I'm Dave Roberts and this is Angling Escapades. Good morning and Happy New Year. Welcome to Angling Escapades, year 2020, and you join me very early in the morning. The clock's just turned 20 past 6. Me and Monty got an early start, and the reason for that is we're pike fishing today. Now, pike fishing is something I love doing. It's something I do every winter, but this year, because of the river conditions we've had high water right through the autumn and winter. We haven't managed to get out at all until now, so we're on the Wye for the first time, and the reason we're on the bank this early is this time of the day, early morning, first light, massively important for pike fishing. It's quite often where these pike go out and hunt and have a real sort of feeding spree first thing, so it's important to get on the bank as soon as that light's breaking, as soon as the sun's rising. So that's why we're the early start. So we're gonna get some kit out, get on the river, and make sure we're in position for the witching hour, hopefully. So we're gonna get some kit out and we'll crack on. Okay, right, so I'm all togged up now, got my clothes on, reasonably light clothing because I'm going to be travelling, going to be walking a lot of distance today. Pike fishing is all about mobility for me, getting on the bank, trying in lots of different spots, and knowing your river. A lot about instinct, actually, just walking past a spot in the river, something that just looks a little bit where you think a pike might be lurking, and having a go. So I'll go more into the tactical side of things, how I fish and that sort of things a bit later. But what I want to do now is it's imperative I get on the bank before the light gets too bright. So basically, like I say, it's all about mobility. So I've got a bag with unhooking mat and all my bits and bobs in there. That goes over my shoulder. I've got my rod already set up. Okay, that's vitally important because it's dark. I don't want to be getting down on the bank and having to tie hooks and things like that. So rod's ready to go, and obviously a suitable size landing net, specimen net, and this one very handily just goes over my shoulder like so, and that's it. I'm ready to go. I've got all my baits in my bag, got a few supplies, a few biscuits to keep me going. Let's get down the river. Okay, so this is the first spot I've chosen today. You can see it's very, for me, this is very pikey looking. I've got a dead tree in the water, been there a long time. Sort of place where a pike maybe lay up or might even come up and use as an ambush. So I've just got my bait in the water, just lay alongside it. It's coming light now. I've been here probably half an hour. So I'll fish through that first bit of light just as the light was starting to change, which is important. And I would say now, for the next sort of couple of hours, is prime time for pike. So I tend not to spend too long in one place. I've sort of been here half hour or so, so I might give it another 10 minutes and then I'll move on, and then I'll probably just give everywhere 20 minutes. And piking's all about timing and placement, being in the right time at the right place and dropping your bait into an area. And it's also a lot about instinct. You need to look at the water and just think, I fancy that, I'll have a drop in there for 20 minutes, and that, that's how that's where the luck element comes in. It's dropping it into the area where there is a pike. But this sort of thing where you've got a dead tree in the water just looks pikey to me, so I couldn't walk past this without dropping in here. There's other swims I'm going to go and fish, but this was a good starting point. You can see I've got my net on the bank ready. I've got my rod on a rod rest. That's all I've got down the bank here. Up the bank I've got my unhooking mat and everything, so if I do catch a fish I can take it away from the water and unhook it safely up the bank. But everything's very simple, and if I'm going to move in 10 minutes or so, I can just pick the rod up, the net, everything, move off, travelling very light, and It's a great way of fishing. Monty prefers this type of fishing because it means he can move around. He doesn't have to sit behind me for 5 hours like we do in a match, do you, mate? There's something about this sort of fishing, and I always say this with pike fishing. You've got, you can see I'm using a big bulbous float. I've got that set up on a paternoster. The fish comes and takes that. What I'll get is a bob on the float and the bite. Now, when we're fishing, on the river, or when we're fishing for coarse fish or any other type of fish, usually you're fishing for quick bites. The float dips under and you strike quickly. And that moment of excitement when that float dips under, well, with pike fishing, that's accentuated by about sort of 20 seconds because the float bobs and bobs again, and you've got this higher state of alertness, and it's just like a real buzz when you do that. So you might not get lots of bites, but when you do, the excitement levels are there, and they're there for a good sort of maybe 20 seconds or so, and then striking into the fish and hopefully playing the fish. So, some people like to suspend their baits in different ways and fish on the bottom and fish with bite alarms. I like to see a float. Even if I'm fishing on the bottom, I still want to watch a float because there's absolutely nothing better than seeing that first when you're just watching a float, and it can be quite mesmeric watching it move around in the current as your bait's moving around, and then when something happens, when a pike takes it, it's unmistakable. Something changes. It might just be the slightest bob, or it might be a slow dip under, but it just absolutely just sparks, just like an electric shock. It's a fantastic way of fishing. So there we go then. Fish on the bank. Fish probably, it's got to be just into double figures, 10, 12 pound I imagine. First bite of the day. It's come quite late actually. I missed all the early twilight stuff, never had a touch, but this one's just coming on the act. So this is the important part now, unhooking. I always set, wherever I stop, I always just set up my own hooking mat, have a little unhooking station with everything to hand. I've got my forceps ready, okay, so I can unhook this fish. Now, as luck would have it, the hooks have actually come out in the net, so that was probably lucky. Obviously it wasn't very well hooked. It was, you know, so I was probably lucky to get that one in, but it's important to have, you know, a good base to work from so that you can unhook your fish. You know, ultimately these fish can be, you know, can be very big fish. You know, it's not a small fish, and it's for your own safety as well as the fish's safety that you want to get it unhooked and back in the water as quick as you can. So handling the fish is important. Having them, you know, you want to keep these fish nice and still, and there's a way to handle them and a way to get them back safely. So a lot of our work I do with pike fishing, with guests I get on the river, it's about confidence. People are wary of pike, obviously, because they've got teeth, okay? So people are automatically scared of the pike, and unhooking them is the biggest part. So a lot of people avoid going pike fishing because of that thing. So what I've done a lot in the last couple of years is I take people out, we take them out on the river, and if we can catch a pike and get a pike on the bank, it enables them to have a look at how I unhook them, how I hold them, and how I handle them safely. Now, you'll have seen people do this. You can hold them under the chin and you just follow up to the V, and then that enables you to lift the fish. You can lift the fish like that, support it. Obviously this one's already unhooked, so that's fine, but I'm in control of that fish, and that fish is not going to flip or go anywhere, okay, and I can unhook it safely. And then when I'm on the bank with people, I can show them the teeth, I can show them, calm down girl, I can show them the fish's teeth, I can show them how to handle them, and we can put them back safely, and you know, everybody's gives people a chance, just, you know, in a non-pressured situation. I'm doing all the work, but people can come and have a you know, have a hold of the fish and get used to holding these fish and handling them, so there's nothing to be scared of. So I'm going to get this one straight back now. So I'm going to take it down to the water's edge and just give it a little bit of a rest up in the side, and then let it go, and we'll see if we can catch another one. Yes! Now that's a proper one. That's a big old girl, that one. So, same again. Just want to keep the fish nice and calm. It's all on my unhooking mat, everything's to hand. So, and this is a bit where you just have to be careful, because you don't want to run your finger up the jawline and put it straight into a hook. So, really, it's just a case, first of all, of just finding that jawline, finding where the hooks are. There's our bait, all mangled. Oh, and that hook was only just in there. Look, that's the one that was on the back of the fish, and the other one in the edge there. There we go. Fantastic. Now, it's a big old fish, so I don't want to spend too much time with it. So I'm just going to get the scales out quickly, give it a quick weigh. That one's worth weighing. I'd say it, I guess, I reckon about 15 pounds. But we'll see now. There you go. Wrap it up. Okay, that's weighing 17.10 with the net, so I'd say it's probably just over 15 pounds. I'll weigh the net after. So let's get that out and have a good look at her for you. So River Wye winter piking at its absolute best. What a stunning fish. Absolute creatures. And then look at that. I just noticed now as well, in the back of her throat there is another fish. Let's see if I can get that out as well. Oh, she's gonna go. There we go. Now I'm not sure, that's a roach. I'm pretty sure that's the bait that the other fish obviously spat out when we hooked it. That's a roach, similar size to the ones I'm using. It's got to be. There probably won't be many roach down here at this time of year, and to have two at that size, both in, that's incredible. So she's mopped up the dead bait that we used to catch the other one. Brilliant. Let's get her back. Now, because this is a much bigger fish, I'm going to really take some time with this one. Make sure it's absolutely okay. Just get her to the edge of the net like that. I'm just going to hold her in the net so she can't swim off. Really just want to spend some time with her, just making sure she's okay. Even if she's kicking a little bit, I'll just still hold it a little bit longer. It's great areas like this, if you can get to some shallow water where you can stand with the fish in the water, it just gives you that, you know, you're not just dropping it into deep water where it could sort of swim away and then roll over. Okay, been there a couple of minutes now, so I'm just going to poke her nose out just so if she wants she can just open her mouth. Usually they'll open their mouth, let out a big puff of bubbles. There you go. There she goes. Lovely. And what these pike will do generally is they'll go down and they'll sit on the bottom and they'll just sulk. They'll sit there and sulk, and you might come back a couple of hours later and she's still there. The main thing is she's comfortable now, she's got oxygen running over her gills and she'll be fine. What a wonderful fish. Don't know whether we'll better that today, but we better carry on, haven't we? Well, we've got daylight. Right, where's Monty gone? Well, that's incredible. I was just about to move on. I thought I couldn't possibly expect another fish from the same peg, and I just twitched it to bring it back and it's gone. Another fish again. That's well into doubles, that one. Right, let's get this. Literally just started packing everything away to move on. I'm a bit unorganised, but anyway, nice fat fish that is. There we go. There we go. All right, calm down. Calm down. Look at that. Let's have a look inside. See if this one's got rid of the bait. Yeah, no bait inside that one. So another fantastic fish. Look at that. That's going to be 14 or 15 pound as well. Got a little mark on its head. Look, some sort of scar. There, it seems to be healing up. Another fantastic fish. Right, let's just give you a little way and we'll pop you back. Let's get these hooks out of the net first. Rubber net's so much easier for unhooking fish with these treble hooks. Scales on. Let's just wrap this up a little bit. There we go. There we go. What's she saying? Crikey, that's almost as heavy as the last one. Saying 16-12 with the net, so about £15 again. Incredible. 16-12. Yeah, we'll have to weigh this net. You can see this one's a shorter fish, but fatter. Right, I'm going to put this straight back. I'm not going to be greedy and try and have another go here. I think I'm going to leave it. There's obviously a few fish in this area. I can always come back to it another day. But 3 fish from the same hole. So anybody who says you should catch one fish and move on, it's not the case. There's always another one there. These fish do hang around together. You know, the jacks hang around with the females, and you know they spawn a lot earlier. They spawn in the cold weather. So we're going to go put this one back. Okay, I got greedy. I just thought 3 fish out of 1 swim. There's something going on here. There's a chance of a big fish that's sat here and these fish are hanging around. So I've put a bait out there, turned around to get the net set up again, and it's gone straight away. Smaller fish this time. Beautiful condition there. Let's see where this is hooked. Just be careful with this one because it's down in it. I don't know where those hooks are, so I'm going to have a look first. Mouth open. little gate they've got on the jaw there. It's almost up in there, so I'll do that. Away from my fingers. There we go. Oh, she's going to go. You can always tell when they're going to go. They sort of open their mouth a bit wider. You know they're going to have a little flip, so you can counteract that. Hooks back out of there. Perfect. Fish has disappeared. So I'd say, I'm not going to weigh that one, but I'd say probably 8 to 10 pound that one. Absolute stunning fish. How good's that? 4 fish from the same swim. It's the first time that's ever happened. For me anyway. I won't weigh it, I'm just going to put it straight back. Ooh. Well, you are witnessing an incredible fishing session. I've never known anything like this. 5 fish in the same swim. There must be so many fish stacked up in this bit of water here, and I keep thinking I'm being greedy by fishing from them. I'm just so intrigued. I've never known anything like it, and they're all, I keep thinking, oh, it's probably the same fish or something, but it's not. They're all different fish. See, this one's got a mark on it there. They've all got little distinctive marks and stuff. But this one again is in that sort of 10 to 12 pound bracket, I would have thought. Let's have a look where these hooks are. Let's get these hooks out of the way. Clean fish. Oh, I tell you what, it's a bit bigger than I thought, that one. Just went into double size. Okay. Let's give that one a little weigh, because I'd say it's a bit bigger, that one. This is just incredible. Now, I weighed the net before, it's 1.12 the net, so that one's weighing 16.5. 16.4. 16.4. It's 15.4, that's 14.8. 14 pound 8 ounces. Just another stunning fish. I can't believe what's going on. And I'm going to have another go. I'm going to have to go again, because these sessions, this has never happened before, and it probably will never happen again. So let's get this one back. Let's see if we can catch another one. Okay, so I just want to take you through some of the equipment I use for this piking. Now, obviously, there's many different ways to go about catching these pike, and although virtually all of my pike fishing revolves around bait fishing, i.e. using dead baits in a variety of ways to catch these pike. Now, obviously, there's loads of other things you can do. You can fish lures for them, spinners, what have you, jerk baits, whatever you want. There's a whole other world out there. I don't get involved in that. I like my pike fishing as it is. I just keep it nice and simple, and I like using baits. I like using dead baits. So anything I show you now is revolved around that. The other side of it, spinning and lure fishing, is not something I get too involved with. You know, I do a lot of salmon fishing, which involves a lot of spinning and that sort of thing, and that can become quite repetitive, you know. So from March onwards I'm doing a lot of that, so I don't really want to be doing it through the winter months as well. So I like what pike fishing gives me. I like the fact that I can put the rods in the car, in the van, go and fish and drop it in little holes and stand back and just take in the environment and just relax, you know. Totally different from what I do when I'm match fishing or, you know, course fishing. So that suits me, but there's lots of other ways to go about it. This is just my personal preference and how I fish the Wye. So equipment wise, you can spend as much as you want on equipment. I personally, because I probably don't do it's probably the least the least sort of time I spend on a particular angling discipline. I don't spend lots on my equipment. So rods and reels to start, I use a carp rod. Now this rod and this reel I picked up off eBay probably about 10 years ago. They owe me absolutely nothing. They've done a wonderful job. The rod itself is a 2.5 pound Tesco carp rod. Like I say, there's specialist pike rods out there, great, but for what I needed at the time, this was perfect. And I've got 2 or 3 of these now which I've picked up, and I don't expect the rod and reel combo probably didn't cost me any more than £50. The reel itself, it's not an expensive reel. Ultimately, all I'm doing is opening the bail arm and dropping a bait into a hole behind a tree. There's no performance casting, no long casting. You're not winding in from a long distance. All I'm really interested in is the sort of bait runner side of things, and this has got a decent enough bait runner on it. Okay, you want a good bait runner on your reel, and also then your clutch for when you're playing fish. Okay, now this, in all fairness, this reel probably could do with replacing now, or it could do with a service at the very least, but it does the job, you know. It's got a good drag when I hook a fish. You know, they can take line smoothly, and that's all that matters. I've got that reel loaded with 18 pound mono. Again, a lot of people use braid. That's up to them, you know. That gets a bit more expensive and not something I'm really that bothered. I don't feel that I lack any performance by not using braid, so I'm happy with that setup. But I say, if you've got carp fishing equipment, you can go piking with it, because that's just a carp rod, a bait runner reel, and some heavy line. So that's my rod and reel setup. The other thing is you need to carry, like I say, it's all about, you know, we're travelling quite light when pike fishing. Now what I do carry is I'll carry a bank stick with a bite alarm on. Now I don't necessarily use the bite alarm. In fact, I hardly ever use the bite alarm, but it's there if I decide I want to fish on the bottom with just a lead and not fish a float, you know, and not have a visual indicator. Then I can put that on, or if I have to turn around and go to the toilet or something like that, that's there. But I just use it as a rod rest mainly, and I carry one of those for that. Then I've got my bag, or my rucksack. I've got my unhooking mat on the top there, nice and accessible, so I can just flip that off and put that down at each place I stop. And then in here, obviously, I've got all my terminal tackle that I carry with me, and obviously my baits and a drink. What I've got in here, I basically keep it nice and straightforward. I've got basically 3 main boxes there, and in there I've got various different bits of terminal tackle. I've got my traces in here. Okay, now these are all, I do make my own traces, and I just store them in these little boxes. You can buy shop bought ones, not a problem. It's just purely for the amount I use mine when I'm taking people out. You know, I'm going through quite a lot of equipment, so it's just more cost effective for me to make my own. I obviously I'll make those at home, sat in front of the telly, no problem with that at all. I've got a box there with various floats, different types of sort of sliding floats, all sliding floats, lots of different types. different shapes and sizes. And like I say, this is what I love about pike fishing. I love watching a float. It doesn't matter if my bait's on the bottom, I want to see it watch a float, because like I say, I find it all very mesmeric watching a float bobbing around or moving around in the flow, and then all of a sudden a fish comes and takes it and it goes bob bob, and that's brilliant to me. So that's why I generally try and have a float on the line whatever I'm doing. And then I've got another box there with all the terminal bits and pieces that I use for making my traces up. You know, I've got hooks there, I've got wires, you know, little boxes, everything I need, a little pair of pliers in there, everything I need for making my trace up. If I should need to make one on the bank, I can do that, but generally most of these are done at home. Now, I also carry obviously all my own hooking gear. That's just in the side pocket, nice and handy, so I can get my forceps out. Spare forceps, I've got a glove in there, got my scales, so that's all handy in the side pocket there. And then aside from that, I've just got some bits and pieces, some little box of weights and leads, different bits and pieces that I use, you know, just for, you know, you don't want to be losing, if you're using sort of drop off on paternosters, you don't want to be using expensive leads, so I carry little rolls that I can just make my own. And then just old ledgers, old Arsley bombs, anything that I don't really, inexpensive really. Spool of lighter line, some bits and bobs, some heavier leads in there, and some poly balls for popping up baits if I needed to pop up a bait off the bottom. Those sorts of things. So I've basically got, you know, everything sort of condensed into 3 or 4 containers. And that's it really for the terminal tackle. I've got everything I need there. Aside from that then, it's just down to baits really. I carry obviously frozen baits, frozen dead baits. These are the ones I use at the moment, Devon baits, they're very good. And this again can be, you know, as expensive or inexpensive as you want it to be really. I like using these baits because I like using coarse baits where allowed. You know, different venues will dictate what you're allowed to use. Some stretches of the Wye you're not allowed to use coarse fish, but the majority you can. I like using dead roach, that's my favourite. I like using, yeah, I like using those as bait, so that's what I buy the most of. But I also regularly go to the supermarket, go to the fish counter, and if they've got fresh herrings, mackerels, sprats even, I'll buy those as well, and I'll freeze those or use them straight away. There's, you know, they're brilliant baits as well, especially where you can't use coarse baits. A herring, I've caught loads of pike on herrings, so and that's a relatively cheap way of doing it. So like I say, you know, it's good to have a stock of these. I keep them in the freezer, and then I can just pick them up and go. If I know I'm going to be going out one afternoon or early in the morning, I can get them out the night before and get those. So bait wise, doesn't have to be terribly expensive, but fresh baits is important, and I know that these, I trust these now. I've been using these a while, and I know that they're good fresh baits, and I keep them frozen until I need them. And likewise, if you've got a good fishmonger, you'll know that that's fresh bait as well. Now with rigs, there's two basic types of rig I use. One, I like using a paternoster, and I like using a suspended bait, or sorry, a bait on the bottom rather, on a slide-in float. So those two rigs kind of cover me for everything. Basically, I'll use wherever I've got any flow, I'll use a paternoster rig, because that's based around keeping your bait moving. And if I've got dead water, then I'll just lie a bait on the bottom, underneath a float, on a slide-in float, so that a fish can come up and pick that up and move away without any resistance. So a paternoster rig, okay, I've got one set up on a piece of line here just so you can see. So what I've got is I've got a flight. This is would be my main line coming from my rod, and I've got a slide-in float stop there, so that the float will hit that and cock. So it would run through that and cock up like that. And then coming down the line, then I've got my trace is tied direct onto my main line. So that's tied directly onto there. And then above the trace, I've got a bit of a buffer sleeve there. So there's my swivel, buffer sleeve there. And then I've got this sliding bead here, which slides above and rests against that, and then coming off that piece of line now, I've got a lighter piece of line. That's a piece of 6 pound line. So this is like a rotten bottom, if you like. So the idea is there's a weight on there, okay, and that weight suspends the bait, and the bait will sit 2 or 3 feet off the bottom, and obviously it will wave in the current. And with your float up here, that's waving below it, and then if a fish comes and takes it, you get a bob on the float, and then it's pulling against the main line, and the lead is still on the bottom, or maybe moving around. And I'll adjust the size of the lead depending on the float, because what I don't want is a heavy lead stuck on the bottom, and the fish is trying to drag that around, because then they'll feel the resistance and they'll drop the bait. But that's a paternoster rig, and that's one of my favourite rigs I use if I'm fishing in flow. I just like to keep my bait moving, have my bait hooked on there. And it's a real good way of like attracting a fish, you know, a pike's attention. So that's a paternoster. And the other rig I use is just a normal. Be careful, I don't get trebles in my hand here. Okay. So same sort of, a slightly different float. The float doesn't matter a great deal, but I like these little Zeppelin floats for this. Again, a sliding float stop. Okay, and then the float sliding freely on the line, and this is quite simple. I've just got a couple of drill bullets there, a buffer bead against the trace, and then the trace itself. That will sit with the bait on the bottom, with your weight on the bottom as well, and your float will be sat. And I like to have it so it's just sort of it's not cocking, so it's just you can just feel the weight of the bait on the bottom, and it'll be sort of sat, you know, like that on the surface, that above the surface. And then if you get a take, you get this sort of twitching effect, and the float, you know, there's a bit of play there so that the fish doesn't feel the weight of the buoyancy of the float. So those are the 2 rigs I use. I don't use, there's other rigs and other fancier ways of doing it, but that's my way, and that catches plenty of fish. Both methods, as long as you use them in the right circumstances. You know, I don't really want to be using this one in heavy flow. I'd rather use the paternoster, because I feel like I get more movements in the bait. But those 2 rigs will see me through the year. Basically, that's what I use. Aside from that, that's pretty much it for the equipment. The only other thing I do use, and this is something I did spend some money on, was my net. Now this is a rubberized net, and it's folding net. It's nice and easy. I can carry it. It folds up so I can carry it like that. I can even put that over my shoulder like a bow. But it's a good size net, and this is important. You do need a good size net. I don't know how big that is, but you know, these pike, they're long creatures, and when you're trying to land them, you know, they're not like other fish like barbel and chub, where you'll sort of get them over the net and you can sort of fold them in, or they tend to lie on the surface at their full length. And bear in mind as well, you've got treble hooks sometimes outside the mouth and different things like that. There's lots that can go wrong in netting a pike, so a big net is essential, and this is rubberized, and that's even more. I wouldn't use anything but rubber for piking these days, because it's just, when you're dealing with treble hooks, it's, you know, it's hard work to get them out of normal mesh nets. So that's a great bit of kit. So I spent some money on that because that's important to me. You know, it's an extending handle, it's robust, it does the job for me. And the other thing is, of course, as well, is it doubles up as a weigh sling as well, because I can fold it over. So that's my net, and I say I can fold it over, wrap it up, and weigh a fish like that. So that's it. That's all the equipment I use for this, and like I say, you can go into it in a lot more detail, but for the style of piking I do and the amount of piking I do, that suits me. Well, I was literally about to just finish off a piece of camera and just finish off saying what an incredible day it's been today. That's with, you know, catching nothing this afternoon, but what a wonderful morning. And this thing has come along and it tore off. Took my bait down right under a tree, and I thought I was going to lose it under a tree, but that was aggressive, that was. But fish number 6 of the day. I can't quite believe it. These just goes to show it's all about timing. These pike are on the feed today. You know, something's triggered them, and we don't know what it is. Something's triggered them to have a feed today, and they've well, 6 fish says it all really. Another decent sized fish as well. I can see the hooks are right on the outside of the mouth there, so hopefully I can just clamp that off. Get that out, there we go. That's one out. Let's get the other one out. There we go. There we go. Let's get all that out of the way. There we go. Let's have a look at it. Oh, is that going to be another 10 pound, 10 or 12 pound, I imagine. It was quite a short, fat fish, that one. Let's give it a quick weigh, because I'm really interested in what these fish are weighing. They're weighing heavier than I thought. Hold on. Yeah, so that's 13, 14, 13, 15 with the net. So 112 for the net. 13, 15, so that's 12.3. Another 12 pound fish. Seems to we've seen, what's that, 3 fish that size today. So whether it's these size fish that are just on the munch or what, but there's all these mid to low to mid doubles are really having a munch. So I don't think it's going to end much better than that. So I'm going to call it a day. I hope you've enjoyed this and learnt a little bit about pike fishing. And like I say, part of my job is to get people on the bank and show them, you know, how to do this in a safe environment, you know. So if you think this is something you'd like to do more of, and you want a day out with us where we can sort of show you fish like this up close, you can get used to touching them and handling them and hooking them and catching them, then just get in touch. I don't know what we'll be doing on our next vlog, but I've certainly enjoyed this one. So please keep subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Come on, let's get you back. Oh.